Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys can slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody, it's me, slightly delayed, frantically scrambling to make sure, oh no, see, all of this even says the wrong stuff. Oh, Streamlabs, why you not save my stuff when you crash? Alright, hold on. Today, we are not talking about red pandas. We are talking about Midsummer, Year 4. Year 4, folks. Jeez. Oh, jeez. After there's a new code coming, folks. Give Martin a moment. I was behind getting the code to Martin because I come up with special codes for these, and the mods are wonderful about making them for me. So this one is Midsummer. Oh no, returns! Yay! 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 Alright, let me make sure that... Yeah, that was not the right thing. Hold on. Let me make sure all of the things we're going to be seeing today are correct. From now on, at least. Yeah, save that. Save that. Now, did it save? Yeah, now it saved that. Okay. Yeah. See, this is what we were supposed to be seeing, folks. Midsummer, Year 4. Look, see? It is. This is what we're doing. We're doing Midsummer, Year 4. Oh, boy. I mean, we've done a lot of these now. I don't know how many off the top of my head. A lot. Like 40 or more? I mean, there's gotta be mistakes somewhere along the way. I think I'm almost up to, I'm in the mid 60s for the other show. So yeah, after 100 shows, you know, one of them's gotta just go horribly wrong. One of them. So good day, everybody. Welcome to Gaarawarr's Guide to Midsummer Year 4. I am your host, Gaarawarr. Today we're going to talk about Midsummer Year 4. This is the tutorial show, so unlike Gaarawarr's Guide to Everything in Idle Champions, on this show we spend the first hour talking about the actual topic, and by we I mean me. I talk a lot. And then if you have questions, you can ask your questions during that portion. Martin is in chat on the CNE Games account, and they will be pulling the questions and throwing them into a document over here. And then in the second hour, I will be answering those questions. I will tackle the stuff that's related to our topic first, and then I will go into after I finish, on topic stuff. Then I will go into the rest. Yeah, what a misdirect! The Guide to Midsummer Year 4 is about Midsummer Year 4. Shocking. So, general stuff about events. We'll rattle through this very quickly. Feel free to ask questions if you got them, and we'll get there. They have now moved the events so that they appear at the top of the banner. The last time I did an event, I was like, hey, they're always at the bottom, because for 3.5 years they had been, and now they moved to the top. So now we see the events at the top of the banner. So when one starts, you always got to restart your client. It'll show up here. Click on it. It takes you to a special map screen, and then you get your 3 adventures. For Midsummer Year 4, we see the return of Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. We see the return of Beetle and Grimm, our tag team duo from Icewind Dale. And we see the arrival of Ellie Wick Tumblestrum. I think you may have heard of her. We've been talking about Ellie Wick a lot this week. She's the first, triple crossover. She's an Idle Champions. She's also a Magic the Gathering card. She's also from the new D&D, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign book, coming later this year. So, a lot going on with Ellie Wick, right? Kind of a big deal. So we're going to talk about all 3 of these, but first we're going to talk about their variants. So basically, when you start this off, these are going to be the 3 adventures that you see, and doing these basic adventures will allow you to unlock the champion. Pretty straightforward. You just got to complete Area 50. I do always recommend that you, for those of you who haven't started the event yet, that when you do this, you treat each of these unlock adventures as if they're favor pushes. So that basically means, because you start over with no favor, ignore the E46 that I have up here in the corner. You start over with 0 favor because it's like a brand new campaign. And you want to come in and you want to push as far as you can in each run, because the thing about event adventures and variants is they charge you to do them. They're not free. They charge you event tokens. If you see, the event tokens for this event are sunflowers up here in the corner. So each of these charge you a small fee to attempt. I say attempt, not complete, because they charge you whether you can complete it or not, and that's an important thing that we'll talk about later. So you want to use each of these. These are the pretty inexpensive adventures to run, so you want to use your tokens effectively and just treat them like favor pushes, because you're going to need to build a lot of favor to complete all the variants in this event, especially this event if you're new, because some of the variants we're going to talk about are pretty difficult. Each champion basically has kind of their own little mini campaign. So as you can see here, Shandy's formation has 2 tanks in the front. It's 4 columns overall, but everything's kind of spread out. There is some clumping here, which is great for adjacencies when you're setting up your DPS champions. But overall, it's a little spread out, and even the tanks aren't next to each other. But not too bad overall. Double tank setup. Beetle and Grimm, lots more clumping. Bigger fan of this one. So 2 champion frontline again, but then straight into a 4 columns, but straight into a 4, and then the 2 and the 2, and everything's nice and close together. So you can do lots of things with champions that like adjacencies here. And then Ellie Wick. Folks. Ellie Wick, hands down, has the most challenging formation to work with in this event. M for Magic. We've also thrown out M for Midsummer. M for Mars. That's not it at all. M for Magic, folks. They're going all in on the crossover. I made it work yesterday. If you saw my GG2E stream, the 4-hour stream yesterday, probably another reason I'm a little frazzled today. 4 hours yesterday. We pushed real deep and got all this gold. It was pretty fun. If you want to see a deep push in an event and Azaka farming and stuff, check out the VOD from yesterday's stream. So yeah, I mean, you can make it work, but as a newer player, it's going to be painful. Just being straight up honest. As a new player, it's going to be painful. You're going to want to push for your favor in one of these other formations, but you can make this work to do the variants, and then bail. But yeah, so 3 tank front line, single column, 2 tanks, single column, 2 champions, single, and then 3 in the back. It's a rough formation for the current meta. Once you've done each of the initial missions, unlock missions, and you have your shiny new champions, but they don't have any gear, bam! All of these variants open up. So each adventure gets 3 variants. This is just kind of the rule of this game. Every adventure has 3 potential variants. They may not have them yet. They may get added later in like campaigns, but in the events, they all have their 3. Each variant is going to have different restrictions. So like for Shandy, they're all going to be this same layout, but there will be difficulty restrictions placed on each for flavor to give you your little puzzle challenge. So starting off with Shandy's, general rule of thumb, the first variant is always going to get you to 70. You always have to complete area 75. The second one is 125. You can see right here in completion areas. Third, 175. You can do them in any order. However, my recommendation is always to wait until they show as difficulty easy green like they are right now on my screen. Now, this does not mean they're doable. We've had this before. This just means you are tall enough to ride the ride. It doesn't mean you are going to enjoy the ride. That's a decision you have to figure out, and you do that by reading the restrictions. So as we see right here, they were nice enough to put an X through the formation. This means you don't get to use this slot. And under restrictions, it says Jenks really wants to meet Vajra Blackstaff from area 12 onward. He takes up a slot in your formation. So this is where Jenks is going to go. You're going to be able to use all the rest. That takes away a major adjacency position for you. And you lose the power of 1 champion for your formation, so you're down to 9 champions. That makes this a lot harder. Just being down a single champion makes this adventure a lot harder. The fact that it kills all these adjacencies in here is an additional difficulty level. So if you attempt this before it at least shows green, you're solely relying on the power of your champions, your blessings, any perks you might have, a Modron core. If you have all those things, you might be fine. But if you don't know what most of those things are, you're going to have a bad time. And you may potentially be spending a very long time trying to grind your way through this, and that shouldn't be how events are. Events should be fun. So work on favor. Because of the difficulty for this one, you're at least going to want each one of these variants. There's a different, because variants show as difficulty easy based off the amount of favor you have. There are different favor levels that you need to make each one show as easy. Obviously, this one's the lowest favor level, this one's the middle, and this one's the highest. I usually say target E10 as your goal, trying to get to E10. You can do them, sometimes a little lower, but this one's, about halfway to that. This one's, about 3/4 of the way, and this is either usually E8 or E9. Usually makes this one show as green, sometimes maybe a little bit more. But if you have just a little more favor than what it requires, you might be able to power your way through it. I call it over-leveling, because in that instance, if when it shows as green is when they think it would be a challenge that you could complete, but maybe still challenging, then having more favor, like waiting until this one shows greens, means you'll be able to level up even further than normal for this one and do that. So consider waiting until Stay Back shows green before you do Dreams of Grandeur, just because you're losing a lot of power due to this restriction. So for stay back, only champions with a ranged or magic base attacks can be used. That's another big restriction, right? If you're a new player, you may not have a lot of those. You just flat out may not have a lot of those champions. So it may be difficult for you to even field a formation, like a full formation. With something like this, what you want to do is you want to go to, this is now a free play because we completed the base adventure. You want to hop into the free play, but you want to use champions with only ranged or magic base attacks and see what kind of formation you can put together and then test it out. Run in this free play. Try to see if you can clear 125. If you can, you're golden. Go do stay back. If you can't, at that point, then just load in a full formation and use that free play as a favor run. That way you're not wasting tokens, right? You're using your tokens efficiently. You're testing to see, do I have the power to do this? Nope. Okay, well, I need more favor. So again, with this, you may be losing slots in your formation just because you don't have the champions to fulfill the requirements. My current minimum recommendation is have another, we're talking scientific notation, have another EO2 favor above whatever turns this green for each slot you're missing. And you may need more than that if you're missing even more slots. So keep that in mind. So again, you're gonna want to have lots of favor in this event before doing some of these in general. So this event may be a little harder for newer players, and that's okay. You don't have to do all the variants. You can get gear in other ways. So don't worry. These are just the rewards for each of these variants is 1 gold chest, which is nice. But you can get gear in other ways, so you're not totally out of luck if you can't do one of these. Haunted Pass, the final one for Shandy. Shandy starts in the formation and can't be moved or swapped out. So this is what we usually refer to as the "it's time to learn how to use Shandy" variant. Only champions that are neutral, evil, or have Dex 15 or higher can be used. So again, lots of restrictions. Strahd zombies spawn each wave that are immune except from Shandy. Well, folks, Shandy's not a DPS. Shandy's not a DPS. So the issue with this is, sure, early on, she's going to have more than enough damage to kill those Strahd zombies. Later on, probably not so much. So what does that mean? That means those zombies are going to just slowly move up to your formation and then beat on your tank for a while. So you have to have enough gold here to overcome these restrictions if you can't feel the full formation, but also to have a tank that's beefy enough to handle the zombies beating on them for a while. Because the zombies aren't the requirements for moving forward. They're just extra problems. And you can just tank them while you kill everything else. That's totally acceptable. So keep that in mind. Again, probably need a lot more than E10 favor, even just based off Shandy. And some of these are going to get harder, folks. Some of these are going to get harder. I just saw in chat I got Haunted past with a mid-high E10 today with a minimal champion roster. There you go. So they made sure they had at least E10, a little more. They were able to do it. So, keep that in mind. But again, if you can always test this out, you can always go into a free play and just see who you have that's neutral, evil, Dex 15 or higher. See if you can complete 175 even without the zombies, right? Using Shandy. All right, Beetle and Grim. Beetle and Grim are a tag team, a duo. We're going to talk about what that means when we go over the champions themselves. Here in a moment. Arvaeus' next trap. Arvaeus is a dragon, as you can see here. Various creatures attack your formation, and each with different abilities. See the buff icon for details. That doesn't tell you a whole lot, does it, folks? They're basically like, well, you're going to have to get in this adventure before you're going to find out the difficulty of this adventure. This is where Gaarawarr's Guide to Midsummer Year 4 comes in. I'm going to drop this in chat. Ha-boom. So I make written guides for all the events, and what I do is I go into them and I list out all of this stuff so that you don't have to go into the adventure and use tokens for something that maybe you just aren't able to do yet, right? So check those out. I also do, if there's a restrictive list who I've got to double check and make sure I've got all the new champions listed. But if there's a restrictive list, I'm usually trying to list off what champions are in there. But for this one specifically, what happens is a collection of magical monsters attempt to thwart your progress. Once they spawn, their effects are active until they're destroyed. So armored young red dragons come out. And as long as an armored young red dragon is alive on the field, no other monsters can be damaged until they're destroyed. So this tells you right away you're going to want multi-hit champions. So multi-hit champions are champions like Ashara, who's currently popular in the meta. They fire off multiple attacks, and thus can take off multiple chunks of armor and chew through those armored enemies quicker. Hitch is also a multi-attack champion. So look for something like that. You get Ashara as a core champion, so everybody's got Ashara, so just, probably just use Ashara. Fire Snake. The base attack cooldown for each champion is increased by 1 second while this enemy is alive, so that means, once again, you're kind of going to want to have a little bit beefier tank because you're going to be attacking slower, which means there's a higher chance of lots of enemies piling up on your tank, or tanks, because this is a 2-tank formation. And the final monster that spawns is a giant fire beetle. While this enemy is alive, all enemies are increased in size by 20%, which is kind of cool. Deal 300% more damage, and move at 100% increased speed. So they get to your tank line faster. They do 4 times the damage. That could be a lot of no fun. Again, you only have to get to level 75 on this, so it's not horrible. Not horrible. Let's see, should be doable. Honestly, frankly, even if just when it first shows as green, probably fine. Show-offs. The second one. Beetle and Grim, take up a slot in your formation. Only champions with a strength of 18 or higher, dex of 17 or higher, or int of 16 or higher can be used. There's a decent list of champions available for this. There's lots of requirements, but they're using or and not and. And that's important, because there are variants in this game that give you 3 requirements like that and use and. So, yeah, there's still a decent number of core champions available in this one, so it's not too bad for brand new players. But this is the time to learn to use Beetle and Grim. Time to learn Beetle and Grim variant. Again, as long as you can field a full formation, you're fine. If you can't, grab a little bit more favor. A contest, you say? Enemies have 300% more health and attack twice as often. So again, you want a beefier front line. When a champion kills an enemy, all champions with that same attack type deal 2% less damage, and all champions with other attack types deal 1% more damage. So early on, this is going to fluctuate and bounce around. But eventually, you're going to have just one champion, your primary DPS, that's doing all the killing. And you're slowly going to lose damage as you kill stuff, right? If you have lots of favor, you can kind of overpower this. Because if you have lots of favor with the way damage scales in this game, losing 2% every time you kill something doesn't really add up to as much as you might think. However, there are ways you can gimmick this. You could start off with kind of a subpar DPS if you want. And you can use said subpar DPS initially until they lose a lot of damage. And then you can switch to a subpar DPS that has a different attack type than the one you're going to switch to later on, and then just switch to that one, and then they'll be doing more damage, right? So you could start with Hitch, who has a ranged attack. Well, they have a ranged and a melee, but then you could switch to Ashara, who has a magic attack. Ashara is going to be doing more damage, and then you could switch later. You could switch, if you need to somebody with a melee attack again, and you can bounce around like that. As long as you've got enough damage to continue to kill stuff, you can kind of gimmick it that way if you're running into issues. So maybe try somebody with that normally you might not use as a DPS to get you through the beginning of this, and then switch to someone else and then maybe switch to someone else again. You know, you can manage these debuffs through some interesting, you know, movement of champions and maybe farming on certain levels. There's ways to handle this one. So this one isn't as bad as you might think just at first glance. But again, the more favor you have, the better. And since you're going to need a lot of favor, you're going to need at least E10 for Haunted Pass. You know, you might as well get that for this too. You're probably going to want more for some of Ellie Wick's stuff. So maybe waiting until you've got enough to do Ellie Wick stuff and then do the others, you know, makes them even easier if you don't want to beat your head against a wall for a while. So let's talk Ellie Wicks. Ellie Wicks are the more challenging variants, I think, because the formation itself is a little rough, and then some of the restrictions are a lot rough. A lot rough. Hold on, let me get my notes. Scrolling. There they are. All right. So, slots taken up in the formation for Pixie Trickery. And it's a Pixie riding Intellect Devour because why not? Right here in the tank line. So at least it reduces one of the tanks you need. That's good news. Yeah, if you're a brand new player and you only have like Nieli and Tyrell to tank with, well, good. Now then you're great because you were probably sticking somebody up there that wasn't a tank just to fill the formation, and they were probably dying real quick. So hey, it is what it is. Each time a boss arrives on screen, all champions are stunned for 5 seconds. If Ellie Wick's in the formation, the stun does not take effect. So this is a use Ellie Wick variant. You don't have to. You can just eat that stun for 5 seconds. It's going to slow your progress down a little bit. It's your call. It's your call, really. So this one's not super difficult, and you only have to get to 75. So that's not super problematic. This next one, Fey Harmonies. I was checking my notes. This is the one that I have lots of stuff. So this is another restrictive variant in terms of stats. This time Ellie Wick does start in your formation, but she can be moved. And apparently she can be removed, even though it doesn't say that. When I was doing it yesterday on stream, it let me swap her out. Every area, 2 satyrs arrive to harmonize. While any satyrs are on screen, all enemies can only be damaged by bards. That's somewhat annoying. Also, only champions with charisma 14 or higher can be used. That one's not as bad. There are some restrictions there, and it's going to be... There are a couple. You kind of got to get all the way up to like slot 4 and Jarlaxle before someone from the core champion list is available. So if you don't have a deep, slot 3 with Nieli, I guess, but Nieli's not necessarily a DPS. You can get your tank out at slot 3, but you're just going to have to deal with this stuff if you don't have any bards. It's going to be interesting. So again, this is one of those where you're going to want you potentially want a lot of favor if you don't have a lot of bards. Yeah. Draconic Dissonance. This is the big one. 175. Every area, 5 random chromatic dragon wormlings spawn with the second wave. Each type of dragon buffs the dragons on screen in a unique way. Buffs combine additively if multiples of the same dragon are spawned. So this one can just get worse if they're all the same color. White, when a dragon attacks, it heals 20% of its health. Great. Yay. Blue increases the normal attack cooldown of champions by ½ a second. Again, there could be up to 5 of those. Black, when a non-boss dragon dies, there's a 25% chance that it immediately respawns. Wow. Red, dragons move 100% faster. Green, dragons deal 100% additional damage. If you are using Ellie Wick, 1 fewer wormling spawns in each area. So a little bit of a reprieve if you've got Ellie Wick in there. So again, lots of potential stacking problematic things here. I don't know. Again, I think you're going to want to make sure that you've got at least E10 favor, maybe more, if necessary for this event. Just because some of these, if you get some bad luck in here, it's going to be problematic. Like if you get 5 white dragons and these things stack additively, every time they attack, they heal fully. Like that's annoying, right? So, keep in mind that, if you are a newer player with a limited roster, you may need to just focus on farming up a lot of favor to start the event off. Let's hop in. I guess we'll use the newest formation. Primarily because I want Ellie Wick chests. Thank you very much. Alright, let's drag Deacon out because Deacon is not in this event. Oh, I forgot to buy Groke. Alright. Well, we will throw Groke the Toad, Ellie Wick's familiar friend, is right here. Is a DLC available right now. So not only does Groke hang out with Ellie Wick in game, you can have Groke be a familiar for you. All right, Shandy, right here. I guess this is her Blood War Shandy skin. But here's what Shandy looks like normally, for any who might be confused. Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She comes to it literally, one of the heroes of Baldur's Gate, along with Delana, Krydal, Minsk, and Neris. Boo's name, for some reason, is left out here, but, Boo. Halfling Rogue, a chaotic good, like so many champions in her game. Pure support, though, so Shandy is all about that support action. She's not a DPS. She is what we refer to as a speed champion. That isn't an official tag in the game. But Shandy has an effect that speeds up your progress if you meet its requirements. We'll talk about that. Base attack, short bow expert. Shandy fires an arrow at a random enemy. Pretty straightforward. Range attack, as you can see here with the arrow icon. Ultimate, survivalist. It's usually better to hover over it on the toolbar to get the description. The full description gets listed here, and it doesn't get listed in the Champ UI. Shandy bends the odds in the party's favor, throwing smoke grenades and caltrops onto the battlefield, causing enemies to take the ultimate's full damage over 10 seconds and having a 50% chance to miss their attacks during that time. So this is both a damage ultimate and a defense ultimate because whatever you're fighting misses half their attacks. So keep that in mind when you're firing off ultimates in a wild boss fight. This is one that you probably want to hold more for its defensive capabilities than necessarily just fire off for its offensive capabilities. Yeah. So Shandy has a couple buffs that are going to help out the group. One of them is Agile Allies. This is a positional formation ability that you're going to want to keep in mind when you're arranging your formation. It doesn't mean you have to 100% build around this ability, but if you can arrange your formation in such a way that you benefit from it, all the better. So this increases the damage of champions within 2 slots of Shandy by 100% for each champion adjacent to Shandy with a dex of 15 or higher. So there's 2 things you have to keep in mind here. You need to keep Shandy within 2 slots of your DPS, and you want as many people of dex 15 or higher around her. If possible, again, if possible, these are things you want to keep in mind when you're building a formation with Shandy in it, because that's going to give you a nice bit of bonus damage. Dash is her speed effect. This increases the game speed by 25% when the formation hasn't been under attack for 60 seconds. And there's a little timer that will tick down. Right now we're dealing with melee enemies, so I gotta refresh. Now we're down to 34 seconds. But a ranged enemy resets that timer. So this said 34 seconds, but I think I just saw her get tagged. Yeah, it's back up to 56 again. So Shandy's only works if you're not getting attacked. If anyone gets hit by a ranged attack, that's going to turn that off for 60 seconds. And that timer pauses as you're changing zones and stuff. So it can take a while to kick in, but Shandy gets used a lot for speed runs and also just to speed up your formation at the beginning when you're at the point where you can still kill everything with click damage. This is when Shandy comes in handy, and I wasn't even trying to do that. And because it speeds up the game speed, it means it speeds up everything. So the entire game speeds up by 25%. This is a lot like a speed potion, right? And in fact, Shandy actually stacks with speed potions. So when you're using Shandy, you can actually get to that 10x speed cap without having to use as many speed potions. Explosive Arrow is the other buff for the party. Shandy fires explosive arrows when the formation's under attack. So again, this is only when you're under attack. So this only kicks in when you're in a situation where her speed no longer works. Interesting, right? For each enemy hit, Shandy increases the damage of the column in front of her by 892%. So this also means that along with the other restrictions of formation placement restrictions of within 2 of your DPS and surrounded by Dex people, you also want her in the column behind your DPS. That tends to be what I focus on the most when I'm placing Shandy and using her in a run, is just making sure she's in the column behind, then within 2, then can I put Dex people around her. That's my personal order of operations. Some people prefer stacking the Dex stuff first, but that's fine. It's your call. For specializations, we get a speed spec and some bonus buff specs. So you can increase the effective dash by 100%, which means you go from 25% to 50%. That's usually what you choose if you're doing speed runs. Alchemist Fire Expertise is the one you choose if you want to buff Explosive Arrow, and Criminal Contacts is the one you choose if you want to buff Agile Allies. And that's increased for each neutral or evil champion next to Shandy. So that adds additional restrictions. So then not only do you want Dex 15 or higher, you want neutral or evil around her as well. So that's a very restrictive one. Generally, if I'm going damage, I use Alchemist Fire. It's just, then I don't have to worry about remembering if I've got evil or neutral around her or not. But if I'm trying to eke every last bit of damage out of a formation, I will check all the things and figure out which one's better. But generally, you want Shandy for speed, so you would go Ranger training, which I'm going to choose here, even though Shandy's getting really beat up over here. Poor Shandy. We'll give her a lot more damage. She'll be able to kill things quicker, right? Or we could just level up. Level up Griff. Oh yeah, that's actually what I need to be doing because I need more gold to get her to soft cap. All right. I believe that's it. I believe explosive and ranger train. Yeah. She's pretty straightforward that way. She's got her 2 buffing abilities and her speed ability. In terms of items, she is a pure support, so she gets 2 damage all champions items. You get a buff for explosive arrows, and you get a buff for agile allies. But then it's all ultimate stuff. So there is no item for her speed. This makes Shandy a great... This is why we recommend Shandy, Deacon and Shandy, as the first 2 speed champions to grab, because you don't have to invest in items for them. Their speed effects are in full effect without needing to get lots of item stuff. So even just picking up Shandy right away, even if you don't get a lot of gear on her, you're going to get her speed effect at least maximized. For feats, you get damage all champions. She does get some agile allies focus, but then, and a lot of it, all the way up to 80%. But then you see some stat feats, so this is going to help her qualify for certain abilities or certain patrons or certain variants. So she's got a couple able there. Go. Now, coming up next, out of Icewind Dale, where are they at? Beetle and Grim. I have them in their charity skin. This is Psychomancer, Beetle, and Grim on behalf of Take This, but this is their normal look, so let's get them out here. Now, what's interesting about Beetle and Grim, and of course it just ulted. As you notice, I had a different person out there. That's not who was there, was it? It was a taller, human-looking person. Yeah, so Beetle and Grim are 2 champions in 1 slot. They were the first ever of this in the game. And basically what that means is they have an ultimate that's called Tag Team. One of them is in the formation. When you hit their ultimate, it swaps the other one in, and there are effects when that happens. And their whole kit is kind of based around some of this swapping back and forth. Swapping back and forth. So that means we are going to have a different... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to totally cheese this. If you didn't know... Using a potion of respec. Oh, I didn't really... Actually, I'm going to want to use another one now because I didn't really want to specialize them either. Okay, using a potion of respec. Did I literally just choose that again? No. Okay, good. It resets an ultimate timer. That's a real poor use for a potion of specialization, but when you end up like me and you've got 300 of them, it doesn't really matter. So when we hit this tag team effect, it's going to swap in his partner, right? So this is Beetle. Beetle is a dwarf rogue wizard who is a support gold champion. All this changes. They're neutral, male, 91H. All this changes when we swap in Grim. Okay, so keep in mind. What we're talking about right now is Beetle. Beetle has a magic wand. He bonks a random enemy with a wand. This is a melee attack for some reason. For some reason, our wizard has a melee attack. But when he bonks the enemy with a wand, it unleashes 2 magic missiles that fly out and hit 2 other random enemies. So this should have a sword and magic here, but it doesn't. I don't know why. So you get an interesting effect when he smacks things with his magic wand. Tag team, when we tag team right now, Grim would leap into the fray, smashing a random enemy and all nearby enemies, so an AoE, before leaping back into the formation while Beetle teleports into the shadows to recover. So when you have Beetle in and you tag, you get an AoE. You get a nice bit of AoE damage. As for abilities, these abilities function differently depending on who's in. And it explains kind of what they're doing here. So, get buff. Increase the damage of champions within 2 slots of Beetle by an amount. So this is a positional formation ability with a range of 2. So this is his support buff. When you have Grim in, it increases the damage of Grim by 100% for each barbarian in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. Buffs apply to the post-stack value. So this tells you Grim is a DPS champion. Special order, whenever Beetle damages an enemy that is not at full health, that enemy will drop more gold when it's killed. This doesn't stack. However, it does linger. So if you swap a Beetle in and then you smack something, I should have done this yesterday on stream. You smack something and then pull Beetle out, that gold debuff still stays. Still sticks around. When Grim's in, enemies damaged by Grim take more damage until they're killed, except from ultimates. It can stack additively up to 10 times on a single enemy. This shows up as a beer mug, and it's empty at first, and as you stack it, it fills up with beer. It's pretty nice. This is a debuff on a DPS champion, which helps to make Grim actually a nice support. You can bring them in and use them as a support, because debuffs are support abilities. And in fact, I do that quite a bit. Long Rest is the one you want to keep in mind, because Long Rest is all about this whole tag team effect. And it actually makes their other abilities stronger. So increases the effect of Beetle's Get Buff and Grim's Special Order. So specific things. So Beetle's Get Buff, remember, is the buff, all the damage of champions within 2 slots. So this is that positional formation buff for your support. Or Grim's Special Order. That's the debuff. So this means you're increasing the effect per stack. The resting champion's buff increases by 1 stack every 10 seconds, while the active champion stacks reduce by 1 every 10 seconds. So it means the longer someone is tagged out, the bigger their buff is going to be when they come in. But the longer someone's in, the lower their buff gets. So when the active champion is swapped for the other, their stacks are reset. So you can't build up to like 1,500, tag out, build up 500, come back, and they were at like 1,000. Like, no, it'd reset. It resets every time you toggle them. So basically, you want to put someone in, figure out who you want to be using later on, put the other one in at the beginning, let them build up lots of stacks, and then when you swap, they're going to come in with tons of power, but for a limited time. So right now, if we come over here, it's going to show us our long rest stacks. We're at 65 stacks that Grim has. Obviously, Beetle doesn't have any, because his whatever he had before he swapped out already went away. Okay. Specialization choices. Things get real finicky here. I will tell you, I tend to just I tend to just not even look. I tend to just pick certain ones and always use them. But again, in situations, if I were trying to figure out every last bit of damage I could, I would pay a lot closer attention to this. But as quick as me versus as clever as me. So as quick as me, increase the effect of Beetle's Get Buff by 100% for each champion with a dex score of 17 or higher that's in the formation, stacking multiplicatively and then applying multiplicatively. So if we remember, Get Buff is that all damage of champions within 2 slots, right? So if that's what you want to buff, you come here, and you'd want to do it with the dex. There you go. As clever as me increases the effect of Beetle's Get Buff, so same thing, but by 100% for each champion with an int of 16 or higher, stacking multiplicatively. So the difference here is, are you using champions who are more dexy or who are more inty? Like if you were using a lot of mages, probably go as clever as me. But if you're using a lot of high dex champions, you go as quick as me. So what's your overall formation? Pick appropriately. A lot of times I'm using dex-based champions, so I'm going to go over here. The next one is an upgrade path for Grim. So the first upgrade path was for Beetle. The second one's for Grim. Chip Away versus Strongman contest. Chip Away increases the effect of Grim's special order by 100%. Remember, that's the debuff. So you're increasing the debuff by 100%. Strongman contest. Grim's Get Buff, which was the increases his damage based off the number of barbarians in the formation. Also adds a stack for any champion with a strength score of 18 or higher. So then it's barbarians or people with strength 18 or higher. It doesn't add a stack twice for the same champion. So this is the way I look at this is if you're using lots of strong champions, this is a buff. If you're using him as a DPS and it's a very strong formation, you would go Strongman contest. Any other scenario, you're going to go Chip Away. Any other scenario, you're going to go Chip Away. And that tends to be why I tend to go as quick as me and then Chip Away all the time. And I think most people tend to follow that kind of guidance. Maybe not everybody. All right, items. We get different items for different things. So we can increase the damage of Beetle because Beetle's in. But when we swap, this should increase the damage of Grim, right? So keep that in mind. Increase the damage of all champions because support. And this is the buff for Get Buff. This is the buff for Special Order. This is the buff for Long Rest. And this is the buff for their attack damage. Because again, the swap, it doesn't get an ultimate cooldown. It doesn't get an ultimate cooldown. Which is rough sometimes because it's a pretty long cooldown. It's a pretty long cooldown ultimate. 300 seconds, so 5 minutes. So we're going to do this tag team swap so you can see what Grim looks like. See, he came in and he did an AoE over here, and now we got Grim. So you can see human barbarian DPS support. His attack is Giant's Bane. He cleaves through the nearest enemies with his 2 enormous greatswords. But now when we look, all of this is still the same, because again, it's the same abilities, folks. But now this is the damage of Grim instead. And over here, you're going to see that we used these long rest stacks. So we currently have 108 stacks. It's counting down, 107, it's counting down. Tells you what the total overall bonus is, and it tells you how much Beetle has as it's building up. So it does let you track this, which is nice. Usually you would want to leave them in for a much longer period of time. Okay, so feats, not items. We get self-damage, we get all champs damage, because again, you could be doing damage with Grim, or you can be supporting fully. There's some gold. We've got Get Buff, we've got Special Order, and we've got Long Rest, and even more gold. So you can really get into whichever of these you're trying to focus on. I tend to do Long Rest with Special Order, but, you know, you do you. These are all 3 of these are 40%, so you're getting solid boosts. It just depends on what you're really focusing on in terms of your buffs or debuffs or whatever. Now keep in mind, each champion does have different stats. The one nice thing, like he's Chaotic Good, for instance, the one nice thing about this is the way Beetle and Grim are supposed to work is if one of them qualifies for something, they both get it. If you run into a situation where this doesn't seem to be working correct, submit a ticket, because Beetle and Grimm, again, was kind of the first of their kind type of champion. So everything kind of had to be made specifically for them. And if something didn't, if one little thing didn't get hooked up right, then just let them know, and they'll go in and try to fix it. So that's our tag team duo. Now we have Ellie Wick, final champion we're going to talk about here. Ellie Wick Tumblestrum, greatest bard in the multiverse. Why am I? And I brought her in right as we're fighting Arveus the Red. All right. As you can see, Ellie Wick, Gnome Bard, chaotic neutral, healing, support, and gold. I would argue not necessarily the normal kind of healer. Did they give Regis a healing tag? They did. Yeah, I feel like they're both they both have this occasional usage heal. They're not healers like Celeste or Dinar or Keelik or healers, where they're constantly pumping out heals. Very limited. So don't necessarily think that this is going to... It's something to note and that you might need situationally, but if your whole party needs heals, regular heals, Ellie Wick is not what you're going to be looking for. Magical base attack, quick strum. Ellie Wick strums her guitar, sending out musical energy to attack up to 3 random enemies. So that is a nice multi-attack of 3, if you're looking for that kind of stuff out of your support champions. Because remember, she is support. Ultimate is Call of the Feywild. This one's pretty neat. This is... Well, I like the damage portion of this, but this is where the healing comes off. So Ellie Wick draws 6 Feywild creatures to her. They appear on the right side of the screen, so where the enemies spawn, and they dash towards her through the enemies, dealing damage as they go by. Once they're gathered, powerful following is increased by 200% for 15 seconds, and all champions adjacent to Ellie Wick are healed for 50% of their max health. This means you want lots of adjacencies. But again, it's only the people adjacent to her that are going to be healed. So, again, kind of an interesting heal, and it's tied to the ultimate. So can't be spammed, or it doesn't happen all the time. After 15 seconds, they dash off again to the right, so you get a 15-second buff on powerful following. And as they go back off the screen, they deal damage again. So it's a double damage hit based off those parameters. Let's do more like that. So I would, if I were to hit the ultimate, it would heal everybody here. They would heal these adjacent champions, right? Notice it doesn't heal Ellie Wick. Just all champions adjacent to Ellie Wick. Now, whether it heals or not, well, let's go see. Do we have... No, I saw green come up for everybody else, not for her. So, yeah. So keep in mind, Ellie Wick, as a healer, situational. You're probably using her more for her support features. Okay. As you can see right away, the first ability... Wall of Text crits for over 9,000 damage. Ellie Wick brings in as an ability one of the most feared or revered items, magical items in Dungeons and Dragons, the Deck of Many Things. The Deck of Many Things is known for having very wonderful things that can happen to you, and of the most horrible things that can happen to you, all in one deck based off what card you draw. And they've tried to bring that into the game. So Ellie Wick is very much an RNG champion. So, yeah. Are you feeling lucky? Let's see what happens. Ellie Wick draws a random card from the Deck of Many Things, gaining a random effect from below. The effect persists until she draws a new card. She draws a new card from the deck after completing 100 areas in the formation. This card replaces any card she's already holding. So basically, pull out a card. She sticks it up, as you can see in the art, up here on her lyre. I think it's a lyre. Oh. Oh, guitar. It says guitar, so we'll call it a guitar. Sticks it up here on the guitar, and it'll be a certain color associated with the card. And then after those 100 areas, she pulls out a new one, sticks it up there. The other one goes back into the deck. She can draw the same card multiple times during an adventure, but can't draw the same one twice in a row. So it's always going to cycle, but it could come back to the same things if RNG wanted it to. It just can't do the same thing over and over and over again. So this means, because it requires 100 areas, this means while you might be a new player and have Ellie Wick, she's not necessarily going to be as strong potentially for you as she would be for a veteran player who can push further. If you can only go 150 levels in an adventure, you're going to see 2 cards. But if you can go 900, you're going to see a lot more, right? Potentially have lots and lots of stacks. Potentially have lots and lots of bonuses, because these things stick around, as we're about to find out. But also potentially could have the bad bonuses too. So it's really, it's interesting. It's interesting. Knight grants 1 Knight stack. So this is one of the cards. Grants 1 Knight stack for every 100 enemies defeated while the card's active. Knight stacks affect Ellie Wick's powerful following ability, which we'll get to. Maximum of 25 Knight stacks can be earned each time this card is active. So you can't just continue to farm that buff. You kill 2,500 enemies, it's maxed. It's maxed. And as it so happens, usually 25 enemies spawn in an area, and it's 100 areas when the card changes. That's 2,500, right? So if you want to maximize it, you're going to want to farm it a little bit, but because not everything is about killing 25 enemies, right? Because boss levels are going to have fewer. So you could farm a bit. You could farm a bit if you want to maximize this when you get it. All Knight stacks persist after the card is discarded, so it stores the value after that card goes away. And then if you draw that card again, great, that's even more, right? But again, Knight is going to buff Powerful Following, and we'll get to what Powerful Following is in a bit. Moon grants 1 Moon stack for each boss loot sack earned while the card is active. Moon stacks affect Ellie Wick's Greatest Song in the Multiverse ability. A maximum of 20 Moon stacks can be earned each time the card is active. Again, bosses are every 5 levels. The cards switch 100 levels, so they're telling you you need to kill every boss in there to get all 20 stacks. Only 50% of the total Moon stacks persist after the card is discarded, rounded up. So far these sound good, right? The Fates disables all existing stacks from the deck of many things while this card is active. Well, when this card is discarded, so that means all the effects turn off. Like, you don't get any of the bonuses. You'll still get the base ability effects, but you don't get any of the bonuses while the Fates are out. When the card is discarded, though, all existing stack amounts are increased by 25%. So you do have to go through 100 levels without those bonuses. But then, if you make it, they're like, hey, congratulations. Have some more stacks. Flames. This is the bad one, folks. Just telling you right now. I see that rolling. That was good. Grants 1 flame stack when this card is drawn. All monsters move 100% faster and deal 100% more damage. They got that backwards. While this card is active, for each flame stack you have, stacking additively. All flame stacks persist after the card is discarded. So the more flame stacks you happen to pull, the worse the effect. So this is the downside to Ellie Wick. There has to be a downside to the RNG. This is it. I don't mind if I have a flame stack active. It gets problematic if you have 2 or 3 or 4. Like if you just have that kind of bad luck. But if it's on 1, fine. And again, it's only happening when the flames are active as the card. But the more it happens, the worse it gets. Gem. Gain 1 gem stack for every 3 gems collected while this card is active. The gem stacks affect Ellie Wick's Fortunate Soul ability. A maximum of 20 gem stacks can be earned each time this card is active. Only 75% of the total persist after the card is discarded. Now, what it doesn't say anywhere here, but you should understand because of the way Flames works, is that when you reset your adventure, all these stacks reset to 0. Just want to make sure. Otherwise, as you got more and more Flames over time, Ellie Wick, you would just never use Ellie Wick. All right, now the abilities that those things feature off of. Powerful Following. Remember, this was the Knight card. Ellie Wick increases the damage of champions in the column behind her by 100%. This ability is increased by 10% for each Knight stack that Ellie Wick has, stacking additively and applying multiplicatively. So the more Knight stacks you get, the bigger her buff in the column behind her. Yes, it is behind. Okay, so we want this like this. Call of Feywild is the ultimate greatest song in the multiverse. Ellie Wick plays music that emboldens the hearts of her allies and saps the will of her enemies. This ability decreases the max health of enemies by 50%. For every 5 moon stacks, the enemy health debuff is applied again, stacking multiplicatively. This one can get real interesting, folks. The higher you get, the more of a debuff. I've seen people with like a 99.95% debuff posted in the Discord, which is basically like an EO3 to EO4 reduction in total health, which, you know, for people who do like debuff type of scenarios, it could be pretty good if you get that. Again, it's random what you're going to get, but if you get that, could be interesting. Could be interesting. Fortunate Soul, this is the one with the gems, that the gems feature. So this is the Gold Find ability. Gold Find is increased by 50%. This ability increased by 5% for each gem stack Ellie Wick has, stacking additively, playing multiplicatively. So the more gems, the more gem stacks you get, the more your Gold Find bonus is going to go up. I had a decent number of gem stacks yesterday on my run and used Ellie Wick in my Zaka formation and enjoyed it. It was nice. It was nice. Her specializations, as you can imagine, buff how these stacks work. You can buff the Knight, you can buff the Moon, or you can buff the Gem. That's just what you get. So for the fans, Powerful Following is increased by 25% per stack. In addition, the chance to draw the Knight card is increased by 10%. So if you want to go all in, and Moon and Gem are reduced by 5. So if you just want to go all in on Knight stacks and buffing that row behind her, you go here. Faster Tempo is for Greatest Song in the Multiverse. So it takes 3 Moon stacks instead of 5 to increase the effect. The chance to draw Moon is up by 10, and Knight and Gem go down by 5. So if you want to go all in on that debuff, the aforementioned debuff, you go Faster Tempo. All that sparkles, this is the same thing with the Gem. Fortunate Soul is increased to 7.5% per stack, and then the 10 plus 10 and minus 5 to everything. So this goes all in on your Gold Find. All in on the Gold Find. Let's go here. Let's go here. So there's a lot going on. A lot of this affects... It's all built around the deck of many things. And the abilities feature all the stuff in the deck of many things. Item-wise, you get Damage All Champions, because she is support. You can buff Powerful Following with an item, and Fortunate Soul. But that's it. So you can do the damage buff, you can do the Gold Find. You can't buff that health debuff because that would just be silly. Ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown can happen. With feats, you get all champs damage. You get gold because this is a gold champion. Fortunate Soul, there's multiple here, so you could stack a 25% and a 40%, which is what we were doing yesterday. There's Powerful Following. That can go all the way up if you have the skin that's coming out, or you just buy this one, Witchlight Knights, all the way up to 80%. All the way up to 80%. That's it. Those are our champions. They are fielded. We are going to take a short break. We are going to listen to Bardic Inspiration for Shandy. Heroes of Baldur's Gate. And I'll be back and we'll do the Q&A. We'll do the Q&A. Thanks, folks.
Fill your cups with mead or wine and go top off your ale. Now it's time to gather close to hear this halfling's tale. Battling dragons, skeletons, and riding on a whale. Hunting down the creatures that make other heroes pale. Shot the dragon orb out of a deadly frost giant's hand, freeing all the dragons out from under his command. She's Shani, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shani, the savior of all. She's fleet of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shani, the hero of Baldur's Gate. Battled 50 demons, then she banished 50 more. Just an arrow from her bow can kill 1,000 orcs. You want this woman on your side whenever you go to war. Her enemies will never know just what she has in store. Like the time she knocked the teeth out of a bugbear's snout, or when she sent 100 soldiers scrambling in a rout. She's Shani, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shani, the savior of all. She is great of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shani, the hero of Baldur's Gate. She's Shani, the savior of all. She's fleet of foot, quick of hand, with eagle eyes she spies, always taking down evil monsters 20 times her size. She's Shani, the hero of Baldur's Gate.
That was a throwback. That was from really early on in Bardic Inspiration, which is why I think some of those earlier ones, the audio isn't super great. That was back when they were still trying to figure out Zoom for music, because Zoom was not made for music, folks. But they made it work. They made it work. All right, we have a bunch of questions here that Martin was kind enough to grab out of chat. I'm going to dive into those, and I'm going to look for the ones that actually have to do with the topic today before I get into the general stuff. Let's see. The free play that from Helandrin, the free play that costs sunflowers and gives a random chest at level 50. Going further than level 50 gives you a better chance for a gold chest? No. It's just random. It's just a random. You're either going to get silver or gold randomly. And again, I think it's like a 1 in 3 chance. I think it's a 1 in 3 chance to get a gold. But you're guaranteed. There's a pity timer, or there's RNG protection, bad luck protection. You're guaranteed to get 1 every 4. So if you do have the free plays up to the highest cost that they're going to be, which is 2,500, because they start at 500, and every time you do one, it goes up by 500 in cost up to a max of 2,500, and then they're always 2,500. So spending 10,000 tokens on 4 free plays gets you a guaranteed gold, plus at least 3 silvers, but potentially up to 3 more golds. Which is why doing free plays to get gear is better than just buying a chest out of the store. If I have purple and blue gear for all 3 champions in the event, would you recommend running the year 2 champion to try and get all purple due to her not returning next year? If you want. I mean, ultimately, I think you should just focus on who you think you're going to use more and try to get them better gear. You can always do time gates for gear for champions who aren't in events anymore. Also, their gear drops out of patron chests for patrons that they qualify for, and those are all things that you should consider as ways to gear up champions. I tend to use a combination of those two things when I'm missing gear for a champion, and that tends to work out pretty well. But obviously, that's once you have collected all the champions If you're still using time gate pieces to get champions, then your reasoning is going to be a little different than mine. So keep that in mind. Just know. Who knew that? Devil's Atrocity. What do you mean, do this, then bail? Now I have to think back, contextually, to what was going on at the time. Oh, about variants? Oh. So in general, one of the differences between doing an adventure or a free play and a variant, like if you're doing the adventure for the first time, you want to do the adventure and you want to push as far as you can to get as much favor as possible because, chat probably answered, but we'll see. You want to do the adventure, you want to push as far as possible and get favor because why not? Because in variants, you can't necessarily push for favor. So in a variant, you tend to do the variant, you complete the requirement level, and then you bail, if that's what you're talking about. But chat answered, so. Yeah, all of these are old because all of these were saved from when I was doing the tutorial part in the first part. What is a post-buff stack? So this is in regards to some of the buffs that you get. So there are two ways that that the game can do the math when it's trying to figure out adding in bonuses and stuff. Sometimes when a buff can stack, sometimes if the buff applies pre-stack, like it can or pre-buff, you're basically stacking up numbers. Like if it says you get a 10% bonus for each stack, then and you can get 10 stacks, that's 100%, right? And then if it is a post-buff stack bonus, then that comes in after the 100% and adds on. If it is a pre-stack bonus, that means, so let's say it was a 25% bonus. This is huge. Post stack, so we would get to 100 and then apply the 25%, right? And you'd go up based off that. It's like 125%, right? That's not. I mean, if we're talking about 100, and I get that that's not the exact amount, but you get the idea that I'm talking about. If the bonus goes in pre-stack, then each stack is multiplied by each of those little increments would go up by 25%, and then those all come together and you end up with a larger number. That tends to be a little overpowered for the game. So if you see like it affects, if it goes in pre-stack, that tends to end up a little more broken than if it goes in post-stack. They're trying to get a lot more switch to post, just because of the way multiplication works. Someone please define what E10 favor is. E10 is the scientific notation, so that's what we're talking about. E10 favor is a number plus 10. Well, I hate to say it like this because this isn't accurate, but a number plus 10 zeros after it. But it doesn't mean that. What it means is that when you're looking at scientific notation, like at the top left of my screen, it says like well, look at the DPS, 7E84. So that means 7 decimal point, lots of numbers. I move the decimal point 84 spaces. So an E10 would mean I move the decimal point 10 spaces. So like 1 E04 is 10,000. It's just a different way to look at a number, because numbers get so big in this game. It is much easier for us to say to you, when talking comparative numbers, get to E10, than it is to say to get to whatever E10 is. Is that 10 billion? Is the right target number for? I'm just going to take your word for it, because I don't care. Not that I don't care about your word. That's not what I mean. I don't care what the number is in reality. All I care is that I'm getting to the goal of E10. I don't care what that number is, realistically speaking. All I care is that when I get to that number in this game, I can do things I want to do. And it's very easy for me to track my progress to that as I see myself go to E5, E6, E7. Instead of trying to remember, okay, now I'm at 100 million. Okay, now I'm at because when the numbers get up into like E80s, I don't need to know. I don't need to memorize what that number is. I just need to know that E88 is higher than E87 and is lower than E89. So a lot of us use scientific notation for that reason. It's an option in the settings. You can also hit Y on your keyboard, because why wouldn't you be using scientific notation? Yeah. Anyway. Oh, this is specific to a thing. So 4 black dragons would be impossible. I think you could run into... Okay, hold on. Let me go look at the... This was when things multiply and we get multiple of those dragons. Let me find the dragons again. Let me find those dargons in them there dungeons and dargons. Hold on. I'm pulling up my guide to Midsummer again. I should have just left this up. Should have just left it up. Scroll, scroll, scroll. And then I opened the wrong one. Of course, folks. Of course. Of course. Because today is the day that I do everything in the wrong way. Okay. 4 black dragons. When a non-boss dragon dies, there's a 25% chance that it immediately spawns. No, that just means that if you had 4 of them, if you had 4 black dragons, it's always going to respawn. That doesn't mean it makes things impossible. As long as you're killing it, you're fine. It's just it's going to keep coming back, right? That's not a super big problem. It's just, again, they're creating situations that make things difficult for you, but not necessarily impossible. Not necessarily impossible. Yeah, and if you can kill them, then that goes away, and it would only matter if 4 more come back. Any advice on the most efficient way to gather favor? For example, quit after level 50 or go to your wall each time. No, just running to 50 and bailing doesn't get you... It gets you a little bit of favor, but that's not in any way efficient. If you're favor farming, that means you're pushing to your wall and attempting to push your wall further than you have been before. Because the only way to continue to get more favor is to go further. Even though you get a little more of a multiplier, so going to the same location can get you a small increase, you still want to try to get bigger increases by pushing further and further. So in some cases that's about maximizing a formation, like making sure you have the most powerful formation possible. It might be about using potions. It might be about waiting for a weekend buff like the one we have right now, where things are a little stronger. Like when I really want to push super far, and I know I need as much help as I can get with all these weekend buffs. If it queues up a good weekend buff, that's going to help me push. That one can go away. Does Ellie Wick's ultimate use Bud from when you use the ult, or does it do more damage when friends leave, since DPS has been buffed for 15 seconds? That's a very good question. I do not know how the game triggers that. I would, because I'm not the developer that wrote it, that made that specific feature, I would hazard a guess to say that when you hit the ultimate, it locks in the damage for that usage. Because that would actually be more beneficial to you in situations where your bud is where you spiked your bud and it's falling off. You would want to do the same damage both times. Now I know it's not in a situation where your bud is potentially going up and down a lot and you might want to get that higher one, sure, but that tends to not necessarily be how things are working when you're pushing super far. So I would guess that it's going to be locked in when you hit the button. Does the stage counter move for Ellie when Briv skips? Currently, I don't believe so. I know they're looking into Briv interactions with Ellie Wick. How that's going to sort out, I don't know. So stay tuned. Stay tuned and watch the patch notes down here on the right. Hit the changelog, and maybe there will be some stuff next week. I don't know. Should we reset a variant immediately if we have 2 teams running? I mean, I don't know. Like, generally speaking, if you're doing variants, once you've met the variant requirement, just leave and do something else. Again, it is very rare. It is the exception to the rule that a variant might be good to push for favor in. More often than not, variants suck. Don't do them. Like, they're super restrictive. They're going to be harder to do, and usually you just want to get out once you get it complete. Regardless of how many parties you're running. Okay, I think that's everything specifically. There's a question about, is that a Fafhrd and Grey Mouser nod with Beetle and Grim? I have no idea. I don't know. First, I don't really know what that is. Second, they're not my characters, so I don't know. Mantis 5005, how did you get to area -1 on your first party? Oh, I think that was in relation to when I had pulled this up on the campaign screen. If you're not in an adventure and you open up the Modron dialogue, it tends to show you're at area -1 because you're not in any kind of an area, so it doesn't really know what to tell you. It doesn't really know what to... Oh no, we all died. Oops. I should probably put in an actual formation, huh? There. But then I gotta level everybody up, and that's a whole big thing. There. Okay. Rip Snort McGee, I'm new to the game. Welcome. What does it mean when there's a broken sword over a hero's head? I feel like that's when they've been overwhelmed. Honestly, there are a lot of icons in this game. Like, here's these eyes. That means they're stunned. There are a lot of icons in this game that, frankly, I don't really even pay attention to anymore. Because in a lot of cases, I can't see them when my tanks are getting beat on. And in the other cases, their effect doesn't bother me much. It sounds like they're being overwhelmed. It might be something else. You might want to take a picture, throw it in the Discord, and ask. Because frankly, I haven't really paid attention to what my tank looks like when they're overwhelmed in a very long time. Broken Sword is Neris's ult result? Decreasing damage? But that wouldn't be over a champion. So that's why I'm kind of confused by that. And I don't know, I think people have talked about this. I don't know if there is if anybody's done a guide, like a visual guide to all of the icons. It would be very difficult to try to track down and hunt down every single icon in the game. I'm not going to do it. I've got people saying Overwhelm is a blue circle with lightning in it, so don't know what the broken sword is. Yeah, I don't know then. You can also get a broken sword in some variants where champ's damage is disabled. So see, there could be lots of things. There could be effects coming in from a champion. It could be, like they just said, that maybe there's no damage coming off of that champion for some reason in a variant. You need to use contextual clues in that situation and try to figure out what's going on. Look at the variant. Does it tell you that certain things happen? Is there an icon up here that looks like a boss monster or something that's going to tell you that certain things don't happen? That tends to be what I do when I'm trying to figure out what's going on. because there are too many things in this game for me to memorize all of them. I have a lot of information about this game stuck in my head, but not what all the icons are. Clearly. Mithril Dragon, how do you see your complete roster, specifically early adventure where you don't have gold enough to unlock all of them? You don't. Currently, you don't. Currently, that was one of the decisions that they made, was that you're only going to see what you can afford to put in your party or what's coming next, just like the next champion. They talked about that on Developer Insights recently, and maybe that'll change in the future, but right now you don't see your roster unless you can afford them. When's the game going to be in Russian? I have no idea. I'm not a developer. I'm not trying to be flippant or anything. I'm just not a developer. I don't work for Codename Entertainment directly. They contract me to do these educational streams for everyone, and I enjoy doing that. But I don't know what's going on with their timelines for localization for the game. That's a question for Developer Insights on Thursdays, or for the Dev Q&A on Reddit, also on Thursdays now. Odd choice, but there it is. Retro Game Bloke, can I ask if there are any familiars you can get from quests? No, there are not. Is it all gem-based? No, it's not. Some are gems. Each of the patrons, once you unlock patrons, each patron will sell you a familiar. And then there's a bunch for cash, because that's one of the ways they monetize the game, is through familiars, because familiars are quality of life things. How do I get Torm's Favor fast? You push deep and farm favor at your wall. I don't know that there's a fast. You have to go earn it. You have to go earn it. You could speed up the process with potions. You could attempt to Makos farm. I think there are probably write-ups on that in the Discord if you want to search, or if you just want to ask in the new player channel for someone to direct you to some instruction on Makos farming. That's probably it. I have a new player account on the Epic Games Store that I've been playing through, and I've been trying to build up favor in the Sword Coast, and I just had to run free play after free play and deep push on each one and earn as much favor as I could. Favor is one of those slow roll things until you unlock a Zaka in Tomb of Annihilation. Halandrin, when should I move away from the first campaign that gives Torm's Favor and move to the second one? My general recommendation is push down and unlock Dritzt, just so that you can have Dritzt, and you're doing multiple things at once. You're getting a lot of favor, grabbing at least that first global blessing, and getting some power to carry into another campaign. But you're also progressing towards split the party by having an extra champion in a slot. So I push down and I get Dritzt, which is at the second adventure node, Overdue Rendezvous, as part of Underdeep Cartography. And then I bounce to Tomb of Annihilation. When we get back to doing Strahd variants, is this in regards to my Idle Chatter Patron edition that I do on my own channel, usually on Thursdays? It didn't happen this week because there was a whole day of streaming. And I didn't want to stream opposite Codename Entertainment. That seems like it wouldn't be good. I think everybody will be watching Codename streams instead of mine. So I will return to doing Strahd variants on my channel, the high-end Strahd patron stuff on my channel next Thursday, or this coming Thursday, unless something else is scheduled. I think things are going back to normal next week. Pinopotamo, I just got Baloth, like to know which spec for him is the best for pushing further. They all seem so good. I am very hands-off with my Baloth, so I tend to go the middle spec. However, if you're going to manipulate Djinn stacks, if you're going to learn what that means and how to do it, the right spec is actually more powerful. But up until you get, like, if you use the right spec and you get one Djinn stack, usually that's better than the middle stack. But that does require someone dying. So, I tend to just go middle because I'm not usually pushing deep all the time. So I'm not usually seeing anyone die, and I just want all the upfront damage. I don't know that I've ever used the left spec. It doesn't mean it's useless. I don't think. I've just never bothered with it. At the end of the event, should I Orcus 696? At the end of the event, should I put the leftover Sovereigns' favor into Torm? Or Kellenvor Helm to push further and finish those areas faster? If you're currently still working on a campaign, like, say, Tomb of Annihilation or Waterdeep Dragon Heist or Baldur's Gate, and you need more favor there, like you haven't maxed out your blessings, convert into one of those. Put that extra favor to good use right away on what you're working on. Eventually, you will get enough favor there, and then eventually you won't need more favor in those other campaigns, and then you will always kind of dump it into Torm. But in the beginning, put it on the campaign that you're actively working on, where you need the favor, so that you can see that boost and get that reward right away. Multiple teams, is that something I need to unlock? Yes. To split the party I was referring to earlier is an adventure that is available to you once you have 2 champions in every slot. So once you have one of these swippy swappy buttons in every single slot, so at least a minimum of 24 champions, you will unlock an adventure called Split the Party, which shows up at this button. It'll say unlock a new party, and you'll run it. It's difficult. I've got a guide for that. I've got a couple of guides for that. A written one and a video one. And when you do that, you will unlock a second party, which I currently have right here, and a Modron core. You'll unlock this modest Modron core. And that unlocks all kinds of new possibilities for you in playing the game. And power. Irian, how are people finding Ellie Wick? People that do the in-game click debuff thing like it if they can get the moon stacks. I think it's better for people who can push super far. But I don't know that she's as great for newer players. Because again, it's all about getting those lots and lots and lots of those stacks, which requires you going hundreds and hundreds of levels on one run. So I think she is more of a champion aimed at delivering things for veteran players, which is kind of a good balance, because we had a couple champions that were really aimed at newer players back to back, like Celise and Sergeant Nox were really new player champions. Celise is somewhat functional for veterans as well, but Sergeant Nox really a heavy new player focused champion, in my opinion. And yeah, I just used her for gold find yesterday, and because I got lucky with my gem stacks, so I would probably use her more for that. I'm not a click debuff person. NLM, maybe a stupid question, but how do I get the chest? The code is too long for the chest in game. If you copy paste this 12-digit crypt, okay, this 12-digit cryptex right here will automatically extend to the 16-digit one. However, there is a button down here in the bottom left that switches between 12 and 16. Oh, bam. Like that. I play on Epic, and with every new area going to, one or more banners display. You don't seem to have any banners when you change areas. Is that a setting? Are you talking about, like, the text comes up on the screen in Garrick? Because there is a setting to turn that off. Here, down here, cinematic speed. I put it on instant, and then I don't have to read the text boxes. I don't know what other... Oh, yeah. There's a cinema... Yeah, that's the text. I've turned it off because I've done this event before. I don't need to read the text again. But you can have it on manual all the way up to instant, so it just never shows up on instant. Are you allowed to raid while streaming for CNE? I don't have any control over raids. CNE will occasionally choose to raid people. Like we've raided Jason Charles Miller, or we've raided certain charity events. But yeah, I don't have any control over that. I raid on my channel, but I don't have a way to raid from the CNE Games channel. And yeah, Trontonian usually streams after me on Fridays. People tend to go over there. But yeah, we're the typical short folks champs to use in an Ashara formation. It's got 2 time gates. I'm thinking Stokey and Lazaps. personally, I use Regis. And I'm trying to think of what's... Hold on. This is a short folks one that I've got saved over here. Regis, Freely, and Penelope are the ones that I have here. Human should also qualify if you wanted to use a Human instead of, say, a Penelope. Those are the ones I go for. I like the things those champions do. But generally speaking, you use whoever you've got. Use whoever you got. But if you're going to hunt for ones that offer solid stuff. And I like Regis's debuffs. And I like Freely's. Freely, I think, is best in slot. Just because he's got multiplicatively stacking debuffs, which is just real strong. Yeah. And then Penelope's just cool. I'm a slot 11 champ short of split the party too. I have Jamila and Nova. Recommendations? Avron. Avron's the strongest buffer in the game currently. Why do you say Sergeant Nox is for new players? Because he's very simple. He goes in the front, he tanks the damage, and that's it. He has no control over anything else. It's basically, he gives bonuses to people receiving formation abilities, but there isn't a whole lot going on there that you've got to keep track of. Yeah. So the more simple a champion is to use, especially if they're not super strong, the more targeted they are for new players who just need to know they can throw someone in and have it work. And they've got another option there when they need it. Will I use Sergeant Nox for stuff? Absolutely. There's going to be variants where I'm going to need Sergeant Nox, but he wasn't necessarily aimed at in-game players. So because of Split the Party, I should aim my time gates to an extra champion in each slot. Yeah, that's pretty much one of the early goals. There's a Split the Party 1 and a Split the Party 2. Split the Party 2 needs 3 champions in each slot. But you start off aiming for Split the Party 1, and you try to grab a solid swap for each champion slot. And you want to plan that around what you know is coming up in the future with events. So like, for instance, if I come over here to achievements, that's now hidden under that info thing, and I go to events, the next event is all the way down here at the bottom. It's a Garen's Day. Ishi will not be returning. Ishi was a year 1 champion. But Jim, Dark Magic, will be returning, and Omen Drawn will be returning. So we get a double Ak Ink action going on next event. So you know that you're going to get Jim, you're going to get Omen in a couple weeks. So you know you're going to fill those slots. That's, for reference, that's a slot 3 and a slot 7. So 3 and 7 are going to have swaps guaranteed in the next event. We don't know what the third champion is yet. And you'll have natural time gates that come out too that will deliver champions to you. So some people tend to wait until after a natural time gate before they use a manual time gate, so they know if they got one of their options or not. It's up to you. How do I get time gate pieces? Just wait. For the most part, you just wait. One drops every 5-ish days off a boss when you kill it. There's a timer, so once you loot one, the timer starts. Once the timer ends, there's an increasing chance every time you kill a boss, increasing chance to loot the time gate piece off it. So it's going to happen eventually. Sometimes it can take a day, but it's going to happen. Outside of that, people unlock patrons. They try to work towards unlocking patrons because each patron sells 1 time gate piece a week. And that's a way to increase it. If you want to spend cash, sometimes wild offers that pop up here at the top will feature time gate pieces. Sometimes they won't. Does Human count as short folk and human for Ashar? No, I don't think so. Oh, honestly, I don't know. You know what? Yeah, let's go find out. Because honestly, I've never checked. I think they should just count for one or the other. And honestly, they might just count for human. Let's see. I mean, I did say they're potential for short folk, but to be honest, I don't use them for that. So let's go human. And throw... Okay, so this is... She should... I'm just going to double check, so in case nothing's broken. Let me get her up to Paragon of Kirsabal. Yeah, we got 0-0. Habam. Human! There's a human. So let's go short folk. Let's see if they count for both. Short folk. Habam. 1-1. They do! There you go. They do. So that's nice, but I don't know. I don't know that I would ever want to use Ashara and human short folk. Like that's you're saying I'm going to use Ashara as support for a human DPS, which sure, if you want, or a short folk DPS. Yeah, absolutely you could do that. But Ashara DPS is the strongest DPS in the game. If you can get both bonds to 3, one of the strongest DPSs in the game, given equal gear. So it would be a rare situation that I would want to run that setup. You should be short folk 3. No, they've talked about that at length, that if they had given you credit for 3 kobolds, it would have broken lots of things in the game, and I agree. Do you regularly not use Okori on Ashara formations? Yeah, I regularly don't use Okori on Ashara formations. Yeah, I guess I'm usually using Tyrell as a tank. One day I'll try it. For champions with multi-hits, especially wizards like Ashara, if their damage is, for example, 5e20, does each hit damage 5e20? Or if there are 5 missiles, then 1e20 each missile? That's a good question. Sometimes it will specifically state if it's doing one or the other. The only way I'd be able to answer that is to like look at an armored enemy and see. In some cases it might be that number, in some cases it might be splitting it up. And I haven't really looked, if I'm being honest. I think Hitch tells you that it's like his stab is one number and his dagger is another number, and it shows you that they're different, so it doesn't add them together. I feel like it should be just each hit does 5e20. Usually you can tell also based off your bud. When Shara throws out 5 magic missiles, what's your bud number look like? Honestly, here's the thing. I only ever pay attention to my bud. I don't even look at the number. I don't look at the damage numbers a champion says they're doing. I look at bud. Because that's the only number that really matters. It's going to tell me what the highest hit was. And that's like right there. Hit 3.46 E157. That's all that matters to me. If I come over here, what's it say? E141 damage? So, I mean, so it doesn't really even matter because there's some debuff action going on and things, and yeah, I don't know. I just look at the hit down here. Started recently, missed the recent champions like Sergeant Knox, etc. Do they ever reoffer free champions? Yeah, I mean, the events happen on a yearly rotation, so if you want to wait until next year, you can get them. But also time gates are a thing. So time gates, there's a natural time gate in between events, and you're going to be offered 3 champions for free that you could go back and you can pick one and go back and get it. Effectively go back in time and grab that champion. You also collect time gate pieces over time, as we were just discussing. When you get 6 of those, you can choose any champion from the past to go back and get. So there's all kinds of ways to get champions. How do I get Human? Right now, you'd have to get them out of a time gate until their event returns. So a recommended second bond for Strahd Ashara. That kind of stuff is really subjective to your champion pool. So you really just with Ashara, when you're picking her second bond, you need to look at who do I have that qualifies for this specific variant? Not even just Strahd in general, because it's going to change variant to variant. Can I even build out a second bond? And if I can, am I doing it in a way that's still good for my party. Like you might choose someone that matches the second bond. You might add a couple people in that fill out a 3, that get you to 3 for the second bond. But if they're not also boosting your party, it may be better just to not do that at all. It just depends. You're going to have to figure that out with your formation building. You're just going to have to test it. I hear 3/3 with Ashara a lot. Is that optimal? I tend to run 4/4. Well, 3/3 is just the minimum. You need to have 3 champions that match the bond for Ashara then to get the benefit, and Ashara can double dip off that. Like that's why people go potpourri for the first one, because you do potpourri, that buffs Ashara. Well, then if you get 3 people in potpourri, she gets the effect again. And then if you get 3 for the second bond, then she gets the effect of that bond too. If you can go over that, that's nice. But again, you want to make sure that the bonus you're getting for going higher is greater than or equal to the bonus you'd get if you just put a different champion in that has a strong buff or debuff. I'm at my wall, but my favor isn't increasing. Is there anything I can do to make the favor increase or push my wall further? Well, to make the favor increase, you want to farm specifically for Azaka. Like you want to unlock Azaka and Tomb of Annihilation. If you're not there yet, then there's Makos Farming, which is a whole other thing. Again, you're going to want to go to the Discord to get instructions on Makos Farming. I haven't done a guide for that because it's a very limited window in your early game where you would Makos Farm. That's one way. To push further, you just have to get more power somewhere. Favor is one way to get more power, but eventually favor isn't going to help you get more power. Like right now, if you see down here, I've got a circle with a line through it on my upgrades. That means I have bought all the upgrades that are available. More gold doesn't help me. And when you get to that kind of a position, you need to invest in your blessings. Well, by that point, you should have them all, but investing in blessings is important. Unlocking patrons and earning their perks, getting better gear, unlocking your Modron core, like so qualifying for split the party, doing that, unlocking your Modron core, leveling up your core, maxing out your Modron flow. Like there's a whole, not only like this, when you get a core, there's a whole buff game that happens with pipes. And flow, and you have to build this whole thing out yourself. You've got to earn these pieces by getting chests, and yeah, it's a whole thing. This is a whole other method of power advancement, and going from no core to a level 15 full epic core like this, and by full epic I mean purple flow everywhere, that gets you 100 levels of progress. Just instant 100 levels of progress. If you take out the core, push to your wall, completely wall out, and then add the core in, I can go another 100 levels. So these are all kinds of ways that you need to combine to allow yourself to push further and get more favor. And if you just can't in that campaign, then go to a different campaign, because each campaign has global buffs, and those buffs are going to help you push further in all places. How do you get shiny gear? So there's a couple different ways. Shiny duplicate cards can drop out of any chest that drops gear for a champion. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance, but there is no bad luck protection. So there's no pity timer. So you could open 10,000 chests and never see one. Or you could open one and get it right away. Like it's super RNG. This is hunting shinies is really kind of the end game, more of an end game thing. It's nice when you get them, but you can start doing some of it. You can hunt shinies for your evergreens kind of mid game, but it's kind of the end game hunt. The other way to get a shiny is Potion of Polish. Potions of Polish occasionally are rewarded. Like we just had a meta event, the Summer Celebration, Summer Spectacular. The very last day, the chest gave 1 Potion of Polish. Potion of Polish has also come out of certain packs from the store. So that's, yeah, Evil Emperor's already opened 8,000 silvers and got 1 shiny. Yeah, some people like to get their shiny hunting done with silvers. And they'll buy lots of silvers to do that. But that's kind of a late game thing when that's all they're using their currency for. Focus early on just on getting good gear, and then later on You'll get there. If I have time to open a time gate with pieces, should I open to try to blue Ayla Regis, or should I get Sentry? I feel like if you're just working on getting things to blue, I don't think that's necessarily what a time gate for. You'll get to blue naturally with just opening up all these Electrum chests that you get for free on streams like this one. You time gate for champions to get them to full epic, right? Your hunt purples, and that's a long hunt to do. If you still have champions that could be useful for you, I think you should get those first. So I would say get Sentry, and let Electrums get you to blue slowly. New question: what champion do you have in seat 9? This is Ayla. This is just her Valkyrie Ayla skin. I like the skins. This is what they look like without the skin. I like to show off the skins. Ayla is my personal choice for best in-game tank. Well, best tank. Period. Because of the self-shielding ability she has, combined with her debuffing abilities. Just makes her fantastic. Fantastic. And that's all the questions so far in chat. This is normally the time we end the show. We do have a few more minutes because we ran a little late. Oh, and my web captioner offset. Hold on. We will restart web captioner. That's better. Where do you get Ayla? Time gates. Get Ayla out of time gates. When in my progress will I be ready to do split the party? Once you have 2 champions in every slot. I have 2 champions in every slot, but I got trashed by stage 5. Yeah, Raven Noodles, then I recommend you go read the guide. I recommend you go read my guide to split the party. The thing about split the party is it's incredibly difficult. But only if you don't know what's going on. You have to have a plan going into it, and you have to execute on your plan. So, yeah. Split the party lets you use click damage up to level 5. After that, you're on your own, and it's all about your champions. The health scaling on enemies and damage, it scales up real quick. So it can be, you've got to use stuff like gold find potions. It's a very potion-oriented run. And you've got to build your formations appropriately, not use too many champions up front. It's a whole strategy based thing. So I recommend. I didn't make a guide for split the party for a very long time because there were other guides out there, but there were some things the other guides were recommending that were giving people major headaches. So I made one that's far more new player friendly. And I did it. I based it off doing split the party on a new player account. So I know it's new party friendly. If you open the same time gate again, you can get the 3 golden chests again after doing the 3 areas. Yes. That's kind of, yeah. Once you get to the point where you have all the champions you want and you're just farming gear for them, one of the ways is just to do time gates for them over and over. However, usually you want to rotate a 3 champion setup because every time you do a time gate, it raises the requirements levels by 50 to get those gold chests. But every time you don't choose them, it drops it by 25. So if you do a 3 champion farming rotation, you're keeping everything at the same level. You're doing them in order. What's a good slot 4 champ excluding Jaheira? Baloth. When would you use Hitch's negative spec? I don't know what that means. Hitch has a charismatic spec, and he has a more daggers spec. If you want more consistent output, you choose charismatic. If you want more RNG in your life, you choose more daggers. I'm ready for split the party 1. Do you have to split your familiars, or are they married for each party? Split the party is just an adventure. It doesn't have anything to do with your familiars. Once you unlock multi-party mode, you can only use familiars and champions in one party at a time. So, split the party adventure is affected by global favors. There's no global favor. There are global blessings, and there are perks, And there's, those affect it, but there's no global favor. Is there any benefit to gem farming going deeper, but before hitting your wall, or should you just reset ASP? You don't get more gems the further you go, so no. Is it a must to do a Zaka Makos farming and never get my tank to survive long enough? If you can't get your tank to survive long enough, there's problems with your formation that you need to work out. Hit up the Discord. People will help you out. Just grabbing filler to set up for Split the Party 2 based on nothing. Birdsong Talon or Spurt first. Spurt. Does Icewind Dale have increased enemy health like Avernus? Yes. Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. Icewind Dale, Ram of the Frost Maiden. Those are the two harder campaigns currently. We will have a new campaign coming later this year, and that one may even be harder. Sorry, global messing names. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the right things. There is no global favor. There are blessings that have global effects. And that's the last one. How's the new streaming setup? So far, it's good. If I can just get all the... like yesterday, Twitch was smacking us occasionally, and today I got smacked by my ISP. Every other part of it's working good. That's going to be the last question today. It's going to be the last question today. We did a little over 50. That's nice. We're going to head out to... because there isn't a song for Beetle and Grimm, and there isn't one for Ellie Wick yet. Maybe we'll get one. Maybe we'll get one soon. We're going to head out with a throwback, another throwback. This is Acererak is coming back. So Acererak's one of the bosses in Tomb of Annihilation. Spoilers. Song for Acererak. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see you Tuesday. Bye.
Switch, it'll make you rich, oh yeah, oh yeah. Traps go boom when you're in his tombs. In every room it could meet your doom, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I say right, coming back, don't give him no slack, better watch your back, gonna attack, turn you into a snack, chop you up to trap. You may be brave if you fail and say gonna take you to your grave, so you best behave, oh yeah, oh yeah. And when you fall, they feed you to the atropol, it'll lead you through, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I say it right, it's coming back, don't give him no flack, better watch your back. Open the gate, ceiling's fake, use the skeleton T, where could it be? Oh no, oh no. When you think you've won, got 'em on the run, you're not really done, or it's only just begun.